It's hard and actually no, I forgot.
Part of it is minerals are usually hard, but not always. Some of them are kind of soft. Okay.
Like gold, if
Like
you write on
gold,
gold,
right?
and you write on
I heard someone say it over here. What? The atoms and molecules in it are lined up and patterned, right? So this is made of molecules called silicon dioxide, which is silicon atom combined with two oxygen atoms. And if you stack them up in a very orderly way, in a pattern, those patterns can keep growing and growing and growing until they form really big patterns that we call crystals. Okay? So it's a solid, it's got patterns of molecules inside of it, and sometimes you can see big crystals like this. Other times, like in here, those molecules and atoms are forming patterns, but you can't really see them as well. Okay? So that's what makes something a mineral. Alright? Now, this is another mineral called feldspar, and you can see it looks a little different from the quartz, right? It also has these flat sides, so you can tell it is a crystal form, okay? Now, if we mix this feldspar, the most common mineral, with this quartz, the second most common mineral, then we can have something like this. Does anyone know what that is?
a rock.
It is a rock. Very good, right? So a rock is when you take more than one mineral and mix it together. Okay, a rock is just a mixture of minerals. Okay, so there are at least two kinds of minerals in here. This is a special kind of rock that starts with a G, rhymes with schmenet.
What is rock?
It rhymes with schmenet. Starts with a G. Granite. Very good. Yes. It's a rock called granite.
Didn't need to say the G.
Have you ever seen granite before? Have you ever heard of granite?
These
Yeah. These are all my questions. Let someone else try. Okay, I know, right? Well, granite is found all over the place. We use it to build big buildings out of sometimes. For example, a museum that some of us might have heard of has some big stone parts made of granite. You guys walk outside by 77th Street, where the big fountain is. You look outside, it's formed of mostly this pinkish rock. It's granite. It's a slightly different kind of granite than this stuff, but very similar. Okay. So we mix these two minerals together, and we get granite. This has also got some other. Granite usually has some other minerals, like this mica. Okay. If you hold this up to the light, you can see it's kind of sparkly. That might be sparkles. Kind of hard to see, but that might be sparkles of tiny pieces of mica in there. You see the dark black pieces? Little tiny. Those are crystals of this stuff, called amphibole or hornblende. Okay? So you mix minerals together and you get rocks. Right? Does anyone know what kind of rock this is? Where does granite form? Anyone know? That's the cleanest one I've got.
No, it isn't. I saw you.
Well, you can look for one. All right. So granite forms deep underground. Okay. It forms I can let you borrow these, but I got to get them back. Okay. It forms underground out of melted rock. What do we call melted rock that's underground? You guys know?
Lava?
If it comes out of the ground, it's lava. If it's underground, it's magma. That's right, yeah. So underground, if this stuff is deep underground, usually it forms these, really giant blobs of molten rock that are all melty and swirling. But as it cools off, okay, those blobs, called plutons, by the way, those blobs can cool down, and these crystals of feldspar and quartz can grow into pretty big crystals. See, kind of big crystals, big enough to see with your eyes. This rock right here is the same minerals as the granite, except this cooled off outside of the ground. What do we call the liquid rock that comes out of the ground?
Lava.
Lava, good, awesome. So the lava that came out of a volcano somewhere cooled off very quickly and formed teeny tiny crystals that you need a microscope to see. Although you can maybe see some sparkles again from this. Okay? It's made of the same stuff, it's got a different name, it's called rhyolite. So same minerals make these two up, but they cooled off different speeds. One cooled off slow, formed big crystals, one cooled off quickly and formed small crystals, and that's the difference between granite and rhyolite. But they're both made out of mostly quartz and feldspar, the two most common minerals. Okay. Oftentimes they also have what we mentioned here. You guys remember what we said this was called? Said it pretty quickly. Amphibole or hornblende. And this one called, some of you guys are familiar with that. What? Mica, right? Okay, this is a type of mica called muscovite. Okay, there used to be a place in Russia called Muscovy today, and they used to make windows out of it. Nowadays they call it what? Moscow, right? So if you've heard of Moscow, they used to make windows out of this stuff. Not this stuff because it's kind of hard to see there, right? This is a similar kind of mica, a similar mineral, also mica, but this one is called biotite. And you can see, are these crystals the same as these crystals? No, they're pretty different, right? The crystals in here, the molecules in here, they're arranged into big flat sheets, okay? And so these crystals are sheet-shaped, and you can kind of pry at them and pull off little flakes like that. And you can see, actually, my card is covered in little flakes of this mica, okay? What else we got up here that you guys want to check out? I see you guys want to check out everything, obviously, right? What's that, do you know? Somebody was here. Certainly. This is actually, sure. This actually is two different minerals. This blue one, okay, is called azurite. Okay, and this green one here is called malachite. If you slice it and polish it really good, it turns into this really pretty green and blue color.
Oh,
and sometimes
my brother has that.
Yeah.
My brother has that kind of hat.
Awesome. Do you guys see a bigger piece of malachite around here?
Yeah.
Or malachite and azurite? Oh yeah, slightly bigger one over there, right? So
that's more than slightly bigger.
It's a little bit more than slightly bigger, right? This
No, that's a lot bigger.
is another mineral. Okay, this is another mineral, and one of the atoms in that mineral is this atom here. Is anyone, what is it? Copper, right? So copper, if the metal atoms all form crystals, right? We call this mineral native copper. Okay. Sometimes metal atoms form crystals, and it's a mineral called native metal, right? If it combines instead with, I think oxygen or I think water actually, it combines with some other chemicals, then you can get two different kinds of minerals made from copper called azurite and malachite. What are you doing with that one there? What's happening with that? Yeah, right? So what color is this mineral here? Black or red. So normally we think of this stuff as being basically kind of black colored. It's called hematite. Have you guys ever heard of hematite? Yeah, this hematite has got a blackish color, but if you scrape it on a street plate like that, or on the ground or whatever, on like concrete or something, it forms a reddish streak. And you can see this reddish streak is now all over all of my street plates. And that's because it's made of iron and oxygen, but when you scrape it, those iron and oxygen break apart and reform in a different way to form a different mineral. Okay, and that different mineral, if I recall correctly, this is basically rust. Okay, they're both iron oxide, but they're just mixed in a slightly different way to form a different mineral. Oh, this stuff, you know what that is? Obsidian, right? You were here before, right? You remember where we get obsidian from?
No.
No, okay. Does anyone know where we get obsidian from?
Lots.
So you do know where we get obsidian. Okay, but I didn't tell you. You already knew that, right? So obsidian is formed from the same chemicals that make up quartz. Okay? The difference is the silicon dioxide in the quartz is really orderly in a neat pattern, stacked up to form these big crystals. If you melt that silicon dioxide, it starts to roll around and move around and become a liquid. And if you cool it down quickly enough, that liquid solidifies, but it doesn't form crystals. If we have silicon dioxide that does not have crystals in it, we don't call it a mineral, we call it glass, right? And this glass has other stuff mixed in with it, so that's why it's black. But if we melt down sand or, quartz is very, very common. It's all over the place. If we melt quartz down, we can pour it into all sorts of shapes and make windows out of it, make glasses out of it, make all sorts of things out of it. Okay? So I've got some people here I think I got to talk to a little bit. You guys can hang around, but I want to talk to the adults for a few minutes here. If you guys